The NFL, I like this. This is a fun exercise. We're going to look at each of the NFL divisions and see who has the potential to go from the bottom of the barrel, worst in the division, to the top. So worst to first in the NFL divisions. The lone team to pull this off in the 2022 season was the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC South. Doug Peterson led this squad to really turn things around, overtook the top-seeded Titans from 2021. The Colts, Titans never in doubt. 3 of the teams listed here in these divisions have new head coaches as well, which creates some intrigue. But right off the top, Matt, as you kind of look through all of these, let's call them division failures, who has the best opportunity to turn things around?
I think if we're looking at a realistic, if we're being realistic, what team could realistically win the division? I think you have to at least point to the Falcons.
That is my first one as well.
That division is going to be so terrible this year that any of those teams could easily, just playing 10% above expectation could maybe win that division, because we're going to look at a complete rebuild in Tampa. You are looking at depending on where the quarterback dominoes fall for Carolina and the Saints, someone's going to come up on the bad end of that, right? We know that Carolina's not going to go with Baker Mayfield. So it's going to be, the Saints maybe if they don't get Carr, all these things like that. But, even with that, is that good enough? Because there's still some question marks around just that Saints team just in general. So I think if you look, okay, you have a Falcons team that is most likely going to be starting. Yes, I understand he's a guy that is fairly unproven in Desmond Ridder, but he did get NFL playing time.
And we're not still sure it's going to be Desmond Ridder
We're not for sure. We're not for sure. But at least of the bad situations, you do have someone that's already been there. Mm-hmm. He's familiar with the system and familiar with how things go and does have NFL playing time and all that. Whereas we're looking it's going to be a new guy in New Orleans. It's going to be a new guy in Carolina. It is, who knows what's going on in Tampa, right? What are they going to do at quarterback? No one has any idea, right? So at least there is one team that knows who their quarterback is going to be, right? And that's the Falcons.
So and this is again, if you were looking at these and wanting to bet things, whether it's conference, Super Bowl odds, anything like that, now those numbers are available. Division odds, not so much to this point, because there is going to be so much turnover and questions answered when it comes to that stuff. For me, the NFC South is one of those things where, dependent on the quarterback that comes into those situations, becomes the favorite in my mind. And we look at that record that you had up on the screen of the Atlanta Falcons 7-10 last year. They were 7-10. The Saints were 7-10, and the Panthers were 7-10. The team that won the division was still sub 500 at 8-9. So that is a division that, to me, whoever you get in there, and I think the Falcons could be somebody that's in the sweepstakes for a veteran quarterback to come in too. I know we saw a little bit of Desmond Ridder. I hoped that when he came in to become the starter, that we would see them air the ball out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Complete opposite of that happened. Despite sitting Mariota, it was still the same song and dance, it felt largely at quarterback. So if they do get somebody to elevate that offense, or Desmond Ridder has figured things out and they have this offseason and preseason to really get into swing where he fits a little bit better, then I think for sure the Falcons are the biggest name among these divisions to go. That division's just so up for grabs to me.
When they put out the division odds, whichever team is third, it's because I'm figuring the Bucs will be last. I know in the conference odds right now, the Falcons are behind the Bucs, but after free agency plays out, I think the Bucs are going to be stripped, right? I think they're just going to basically everyone's going to be sold off for parts and all that, and you basically have to start over because it's just they don't have any cap space, a bunch of old guys. It's a super
and so that
old
was the
team.
next thing I was going to say. You talked earlier about the Bears and the amount of cap space that they have. The second most cap space is the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, so they can actually, I think it's 54 or something like that they have.
56,
So they're able to really kind of go in and do some damage as well in the free agency market. And I think the Bucs are going to be, honestly, I think it's going to be a complete rebuild. There probably should be actually a complete rebuild. It's a super old team as well, so you don't really want to try and maximize a whole bunch of mid-30s and late 30s guys. So whatever team is third in the odds is likely the team that I'm going to bet to win that division, because I think that any of those 3 teams, even if the Saints do get Derek Carr, even if the Saints do, there are still a lot of question marks around that Saints team. So, whichever one comes in third, so long as the odds aren't all just jumbled up or whatever, if there's like a
You're taking a
decent little
shot.
difference, on that third team, whatever that third team is, will be in it. It might be the Saints, might be the Falcons, might be the Panthers, whatever it is. That team's going to get a bet from me because I don't think there'll be enough separation between those upper three to warrant any sort of difference in the odds.
Okay, what about the AFC East? If you think that the Jets are going to get a quarterback, if the Jets are really just that one piece away, if they get Aaron Rodgers, if they get Derek Carr, do they have the potential to leapfrog the Bills?
I think that the Bills are going to be worse off this year than most people think because I think they're going to have some free agency defections. Like I do think that there are going to be some players that look around and get some really decent financial offers from other teams. And despite the fact that you're playing on a team that most likely is going to still be a contender, we have pretty much seen the almighty dollar is what speaks for most of these guys. There are very few times where we go, oh yeah, this guy turned down $10 million because he really wants to play with XYZ or whatever. Like that just doesn't happen very often. And so I think you're going to look at this Bills team as a much different team heading into this coming season. And with that, I mean, the Jets, certainly if they got Aaron Rodgers, if they figured out a way to get a trade done for Aaron Rodgers, I actually think they're probably the favorite in that division with what I think that the Bills look like come into free agency. Now, they could pull some miracles and next thing, look, they're wizards with these caps and stuff. And like the cap almost means nothing, like, a lot of times because they're able to juggle all these things and turn things into signing bonuses and kick the can down the road and all that. But I think the Bills are going to be way worse this year than they have been in the last couple of seasons. And I think that the Jets will be exponentially better for sure. And I mean, listen, you're talking about a rookie of the year on the defensive side, a rookie of the year on the offensive side. I mean, like you've got some playmakers to make some stuff happen.
My only fear with that is like if you get an Aaron Rodgers, one of those guys is going to be in that deal. Like, is Sauce Gardner going to be a part of that deal to get Aaron Rodgers?
No, they would never.
Well, that's what. But I'm saying, if you're the Packers, like, what are you trying?
They're saying he's only worth a 2. They're saying he's only worth a 2 because he's
a guy
because he costs $1 trillion and you're only getting him for a year. Yeah,
but he had one down year and one back-to-back MVPs prior to that. Like, I think you have more trade value than you think.
I don't know. I don't think that having to assume that financial burden.
But I'm saying I wouldn't want to give him up if I'm the Jets. But I feel like something's going to have to be thrown in there to sweeten the pot.
I think he goes for like a 2 and a 3 or something like that. Like that. Like I don't think even a player gets swapped because again, you might only get a year out of the guy. Like you might be trading away two theoretical players with a second and a third pick for 1 year of a guy who may or may not be giving it his all at this point.
Okay.
We do have that.
I'm trying to look through these other divisions. No, because the Bears, especially after what we just talked about, I'm not so sure about the NFC North. Yeah. The Lions are on the come up. The Vikings, I don't have faith in winning the division with all the one-score games
Broncos,
that they
no
had.
chance.
And Broncos in the AFC.
Broncos, no chance.
West.
I think the Browns.
Cardinals, no.
I think the
Texans,
Browns are at least in the conversation because with a guy that is as talented as Deshaun Watson, having the time to knock off the rust and being able to be in the building and train with everyone and, whatever and all. So, because you got to remember, he kind of just jumped in there completely blind, because he wasn't allowed to be around the team or anything like that. So, like, you do have a very talented quarterback. I still think, obviously, the class of the division is Cincinnati. But, I mean, like, there is a world in which the Browns, like, put it all together. They're talented on both sides of the ball.
Well, and that's why so many people last year were betting them, thinking that when Deshaun Watson was plugged in, that they might be able to get over the hump and do that. I think the 700-plus days away from competitive football played in a critical factor there. Now he's gotten a little bit of a feel. He's going to be the obviously day one guy this time around where he was not last year because he had to sit out, get that full start to the season where you can ease in and build chemistry and do all those things that you didn't get to do until more than midway through the year this season. So I get that.
I wouldn't say that it was a 0% chance for the Commanders if they weren't going to go with Sam Howell. But I mean, again, we can only go on the information that we know right now. And right now they tell us that they're going to go with Sam Howell. And so since they're going to go with Sam Howell, I can't say that the Commanders
let's see if Eric Bieniemy is a wizard.
Right.
Let's see.
There's that.
Let's see.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.